Welcome to another episode of Wirecast Live. It's going to be a great episode for you today. I'm going to be continuing to talk about some of the new features in Wirecast 8. And I brought on one of my buddies, Jeff Adams. Smith is another Jeff that I know from the Jeff Adams Show to talk a little bit more about some of those features and shoot the breeze a little. So, should be a fun show, a little laid back. We're going to have a good time this week. Tune in, sit back, relax, and you're watching Wirecast Live. Welcome back to another episode of Wirecast Live. This is our 64th episode, if you're counting, and we have a good one for you today. This is a couple weeks ago, we brought out some new features, talked about some things on the latest version of Wirecast, Wirecast 8, which, if you don't know, was just released last month, and it is going to be fun. This is going to continue that. We're going to dive in, talk a little bit about what else we didn't get to cover, some of the new stuff. There's way too much to pack into just one show here, so we like to unpack things a little bit as we go. And today I also brought on a good buddy of mine, Jeff Adams. He's going to be joining me, and we'll be talking a little bit more about Wirecast, how he's using it, what he's liking in 8, what's new to him, what's different, and some of the things that you might learn as he runs a ton of different shows. He knows what he's doing. He is a professional broadcaster, as we like to say here. And before we bring him on, I want to just mention a couple quick announcements and say hi to some of you guys tuning in. I see Charles. Thanks for tuning in on YouTube there. And Big Rob. And on Facebook, looks like if you're there, just type in, say hello. Tell us where you're watching from. We'd love to say hi. Trevor, who usually handles a lot of the chat stuff behind the scenes, is out this week. So he's going off to TwitchCon down in San Diego. So it's going to be mostly just me and Deborah Lee holding down the fort here, and we will try to chat or respond as we can. But we're running a bit of a skeleton crew here. Jorge, good to see you. Matt, thanks for tuning in. Amir and Kevin, welcome. Thanks for watching. And looks like from Alabama. Welcome, Kevin. All right, so couple quick announcements. First, coming up next week, we have a special guest. I'm going to be bringing on Eric Pratt from Virtual Setworks, and Eric and I are going to be talking about the new virtual sets that he's created and developed that you can bring into Wirecast, as well as talking about some of the ones that are already there and how you can optimize them, some tips, some tricks. We're going to be getting really into the virtual sets because these are very cool, and in fact, we are launching a new live show here at Telestream and Wirecast, and we are going to be using some virtual sets in it. So I'm excited. It's something that we typically don't do here. As you can see, we do virtual backgrounds, we do green screen, but we never really put ourselves in other settings using virtual sets. And already I can tell you it's really fun. So if you're at all interested in what you can do, how that works, a lot of the video you see like ESPN Sports Center and all that stuff, a lot of the backgrounds are digital and virtual, and they're sitting in these virtual environments, and it really looks cool. So this next week's episode would be the one to catch if you're at all curious about how to do that in your own stuff. All right, and we also have a special promotion going on. If you didn't know about it, we've talked about it a couple times on the show. This is the Gear Up special, Gear Up and Save. You can get a brand new Wirecast gear right off the shelf, straight out of the box, ready to go. All you have to do is turn in your old copy of Wirecast, and you get that discount off of the Wirecast gear. So it's a great deal. It's going to, I believe, the end of the year, so you have about another month or two, and we will be ending that promotion. But if you're curious and it's time to upgrade your old computer, maybe you've been thinking about it for a while, and you've just not really had an excuse, now's the time to do it. You can get a very powerful quad-core i7 Skylake with the capture cards already installed, everything you need to go, and you can trade in your software for it and get Wirecast Pro already installed, latest software and everything. So check it out if you're interested. Expires December 31st, 2017. Gear up and save. that is what you need to know as far as our promotions. We are also going to be launching a new segment about news and live news on the show. And we'll be running sort of industry information, things that you may not know that are going on out there in the live video and streaming world. Things are changing all the time. It's constantly moving. So that will be fun. And a couple of those topics I'd like to get into with our guest today, who, without further ado, I would like to bring on. So if you are still there, Jeff, you've been waiting patiently for the start of the show to get over with. We're done. I want to bring you on here. There you are, Mr. Adams.
Hey.
Welcome. So thanks for joining us. We wanted to just bring you on again. You were on the show a little while back, and we had a great time interviewing you, talking about how to be a great host, what you do to be an awesome host as a show. You kind of know that as well as anyone in this industry. And I had a good time talking with you. So we want to bring you back and maybe talk about some of the new stuff that you've been doing, and also get a little into Wirecast 8, because now it's been out for about a month. You've had a little time to kick the tires, see how it's working, and I wanted to get your thoughts on it and talk a little bit about how what you've seen, what's changed in it. So sound good?
Yes, absolutely.
All right. So tell me a little bit about, why don't you give me a quick update? Since last we talked, what's new in your life? What's been going on professionally for you? And if personally, you can throw that in there if you want to color it with personal details. Your call.
Let's see. Professionally, launching 2 new shows. Launched one called Wired that is, a pro live streaming show with a long-term sponsor of mine, StreamSpot.
Nice.
We did episode 1 using Wirecast 8, which was phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll talk about that a little bit later. And then I handed over on the BeLive.tv platform. I handed over BeLive Weekly to Joel Comm.
That's a big change, because you kind of were the launch face of that, right? And Joel's taking it over, huh?
Yeah, I am going to be doing a brand new show on there.
Okay.
Yet to determine a little bit something different. I think we're kicking the tires around, and it'll probably launch first week of November. And we just celebrated a year there, and I produced. We had tons of broadcasters. We had a 14-hour broadcast, and I was up from 7:30 a.m. like hosting, and then bringing everybody in all the way to 10:30 at night.
Dude, that's a marathon.
Yeah, 1 year anniversary. So I was Jerry Lewis in it.
It's a telethon. I hope you raised a lot of money for MS and other things.
Yeah, and it was. I think that was. It was pretty bad. I think for me, I said, "Oh, no problem," but I realized I was sitting in front of a computer. I think I went pee twice, and barely got up because all this stuff was happening, and some guests couldn't log in. So you know how this stuff goes.
I do. We were just having that exact same trouble a little earlier today. That's why I got in the studio as early as I could. I'm glad I did, because I'm not sure the show would have happened otherwise. We tried to roll over to our backup system, and it turned out the backup system was not even ready to go. So we kind of had to build it from scratch here. So if things go wrong, technical difficulties, that's on us. But so far, everything, you're coming in, can hear you clearly. So it was a crazy day for you, long day. You didn't build in pee breaks. I think that's a good lesson when doing 24/7 marathon streaming. You got to build in some breaks, otherwise.
Or get a Gatorade bottle.
Gatorade bottle.
The bottom of the desk.
Under the desk. Well, and as we know, you don't wear pants under the desk, so it's a little bit quicker for you, a little more easy to do that stuff, right?
What, did I stand up or something?
It's. I believe you. We talked about this last time you were on, man. Like some hot coffee, you spilled it, you stood up, and you revealed to everybody that the secret of broadcasting from home is that you don't have to show up to work in pants.
That's right. Who wears the pants in the family? Not me.
Not yet. All right, so you're handing that off. So the new show on BeLive, tell me a little bit more. What is the sort of branding of it, or the content? What's the sort of idea behind the new show?
Yeah, it's going to be very entertainment driven. Something that I know really well, that I like to do.
How's it going to differ from the one you were doing that you kind of handed off for last?
BeLive Weekly was kind of when I originally approached them about doing the show. And now, the cool thing about that is they have like 5 anchored shows now that they do that that are part of the the live shows there. So a lot of growth. But when I originally approached them, it was supposed to just really showcase the platform and like bring in, have a guest in and talk about the platform. And then it just kind of like grew, and we did a whole bunch of cool announcements and things of that nature. But it made sense to, because I think when you do something for a while, I mean, I did that like every Monday since last October, and then you just kind of like you run out of steam. You know what I mean?
Right.
So and Joel's the brand ambassador,
Right.
so it kind of makes sense for him to be doing the show in the first place. So for me, it was just kind of like I needed to do something new, and they've been totally cool with that. They said, well, come up with something new and let's do it. So
Cool. Well, I like that. So will that stay? Are you going to do that every Monday again? Or are you going to switch it to a different day of the week? You decide?
it'll probably be on another date. It'll probably be more likely on a Thursday, I would think. But I can't confirm that yet.
All right. Well, we like Thursdays here. Hopefully, don't book it at this time in case we need you back on this show. You got to just do it before or after.
That's 5:30 Eastern.
Yeah, save your 5:30 Eastern time slot for us. I know that's prime time right now, but sorry, man, we gotta have you reserved for that slot. All right, so that's what's going on. What happened there? That's what's going on with you professionally. Now, tell me, so I want to get a little bit into Wirecast 8 and talk a little bit about that. And I see if you guys have questions, feel free to tune in here on the chat. But Jeff, you've had a little bit of time with 8. What are your thoughts so far on it? How is it? What have you been doing with it?
I used it the first show Wired we did with StreamSpot, and I used it for the calling feature
for Rendezvous.
Yeah, Rendezvous.
All
so
right.
I kicking the tires around. I mean, I had a few years ago. I had the talk shows, 2 talk shows from New Tech, and I ended up selling those because I just never used them a lot. And then I had a Quick Links, the TX box, and a lot of people just weren't using Skype as much anymore, which was bizarre to me.
Well, it's funny because I mean, I think we find the same thing. We'll be like, "Hey, tune into your Skype," and everyone's like, "Who uses Skype anymore?" We're like, "Well, we can get 1080 out of it. It's a great box,
Right. Well, for professional people, we get it.
Yeah.
I mean, you want to use that, but I just a lot of the clients I was working with, well, we don't use that, So and then last year with the big Yahoo doing a lot of things with Zoom. Everybody was using Zoom, and then I was like, man, and I guess your competitor came out with one, the vMix Call, and then you guys came out with one, and I've tested both, and I prefer Wirecast because I know it's so much better. I've kind of grew up with it over the years. I've had it for Wirecast for 5-6 years. So,
yeah, I mean, you're a vet.
Yeah. So
this is part of the reason I want to bring you on is because I thought your perspective on 8 would be handy because you've really seen a lot of different growth and changes in the product. So, this is exactly why I want you to, have this conversation with you. So go on.
Yeah. So, I was really intrigued by a lot of new features, obviously Rendezvous, and then the Facebook Live comments. Toyed around with that, and I really, really enjoy that. It's going to help me with a future client that I'm going to be producing her shows once a week. She really wanted that option to bring in the Facebook comments live during her broadcast. So that really intrigued me big time, and I thought that was due time for that to come out because it's just something about when someone's watching a live stream and they're acknowledged, you can pull them up, you can make a part of the broadcast, and they feel welcomed.
Right.
And you monitor it a whole lot better. I think that's why with Be Live, that's why I was successful at that show because I could just do it by myself and then interact with the chat, because you can really bring them up, and so that having that feature is really, really cool.
Yeah, I think that's one of the best parts about it, which is that if you that interactivity, like right now, just being able to run comments on the screen, which is actually something we did a little bit when we had Red Foo on the show, but I actually want to do more of. We just haven't set up the time to test out like a way that's going to work with Deborah Lee in the studio and me with the comments here. So we'll work that into it. But for now, like long term, it's definitely something we plan on bringing to the show. And I think that feature alone is one thing that we just saw a huge need for. Everybody needs that interactivity within, their own broadcast, because this is all about engaging with everybody, joining in the conversation. It's
Right.
really, that's 90% of the value of this.
Yeah, it really, really is. I mean, when you can get your audience to engage in what you're doing and they feel a part of a show, it's critical. I mean, because there's so many. I mean, everybody seems to be live streaming now. So to get
Right.
people's attention and to really engage them, you have to do different things. And I mean, that's the cool thing about Wirecast with a lot of these updates is because you're able to stand out from the pack a little bit with some of the stuff that you are offering now, that you
Right.
can take a little bit of time and build a little set, a virtual set, or just get some different angles, because a lot of people they don't like the we call it the talking heads, you know what I mean?
Right.
And I really feel like that, for you to stand out on live streaming now, you really have to stand out, because anybody can do it now. Anybody can do it from their mobile device, which is cool. There's nothing wrong with it, but eventually when you get addicted to it, you want bigger and better things.
Right. And even
You
Facebook kind of launched their own bring in a friend and broadcast it, right? Like that's possible in the app now.
Yep. Yep. It totally
Very
is.
Be Live-ish.
Yes. Yes. Very. So and that's the thing. I mean, there's different, I'm going to start doing probably once a week. I'm going to get on. I don't have a set day, but I'll probably just get on and answer like live streaming questions, because everybody's at different places from, from A to Z, and, not everybody wants an elaborate studio, and, all the bells and whistles. Some people just want to get on a webcam and go. Then there's other people that get addicted. I want a bigger camera. I want to, what kind of capture cards can I get? Can I get this? So I'm going to be answering a lot of those questions. And I mean, that's where a lot of my time has been lately. I've been doing a lot of consulting, building people's studios, and because people see what I had and then condensed down with, and they go, hey, how can I get one of those? So the importance is to really stand out, and you guys give the tools and resources to do that at an affordable price, to make a lot of people look different and look a little bit more higher end, when they're doing their marketing or live stream, or however they're using live stream to do it.
Right. And I think that's what makes it stand out these days, is, like you said, it's becoming more common. People know live streaming, but then it's now the next step up is, okay, what am I going to do to make my show unique and add the production value that brands it and is appropriate for my content, and isn't just like some dude on a phone for 5 minutes. I mean, that gets old really fast. Nobody wants to tune into that all the time unless you just happen to be the niche person who's super good at that, and that's just what you do. But most people, that's just not going to work for them. They need to build a show and build a sort of a brand and an identity. So let's check in with some of our comments here and see, you guys, if you have any thoughts on that, please chat that in and let us know. I see a bunch of other people. Michael joining, Matthew, good Wirecast power user, another consultant like yourself, helps a lot of clients, and pro streamer. I'm finding that's really common these days, actually, is guys like you, Matthew, some of the other folks, I mean, consulting and helping other people pass on that knowledge, kind of what Stephen Haywood did for you in the early days.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's exactly, just sort of sharing that. What are you finding? What's some of the top requests? Like you said, building a studio. What are some other things that people are wanting to do that you're seeing out there?
Well, a lot of it is it's really different. I mean, you get a lot of churches trying to upstage your production, but I mean, there's a guy and just hired me in Orlando. He wants he does mortgages, so he's been doing a mortgage show. So he currently used Wirecast. He's going to upgrade, but he wanted to get some lights, some better cameras, get rid of the the Logitech C920s, and get some Canon cameras, upgrade the audio, get some audio processing going on, because he wants that radio feel, because he used to stream out and simultaneously do a show on FM radio for 30 minutes, and he would do a Facebook Live at the same time. So it's really different. A lot of people are big into audio. They're sick of their US the webcam or the built-in input on their laptop as audio, and they're looking for other options. And
Right.
and then that's a whole different world. I mean, I don't have it running right now, because when I go through Zoom calls, but I have it in Vonix David 4 in the studio, which is used at FM stations for process about a $5,000 rack mount. So it's got these presets, if you're like playing music or whatever, or you do talk radio, it automatically adjusts your level. So you have that big boy sound.
That's sweet.
So, I mean, it really varies. It depends on people's budgets, because that's the biggest thing. I mean, I talked to a guy who was doing a radio station, wants to do online radio station, have a couple of, cameras up, and his budget was $5,000. So, with consulting, you have to factor in staying on budget so you can walk away with making actually some money doing it. So
right.
It really, really varies, but it's a lot of radio. I've seen a lot of radio people come to me and go, hey, how can we up this and stand out with our lives now?
That's awesome. Yeah. So radio, I mean, was sort of, they were already doing daily content, daily talk shows, daily, I mean, a lot of that stuff just without the video component, without the live streaming or the Facebook components to it. So it makes sense that they're naturally just gravitating that content into more of a, like a talk show style, like radio. I think, the big DJs were doing that pretty early back in the day when you saw, a lot of the most popular shows, they turned on a camera in the studio pretty fast, right? Because they found that it was actually as entertaining or more entertaining than just listening to the show, but it served two audiences too. They could actually distribute it on TV and people could watch the show that way, or and they had something to look at. They could cut angles. It wasn't much production value, like the old Howard Stern shows or Loveline or just any of the other, like I'm sure the Adam Carolla show, stuff like that. Like they weren't that, they just turned on some cameras and that was about it. And now anyone could do that, but in the studio, to Facebook.
Well, it works now. I mean, they knew how to engage an audience already, the way they prep their shows, and it it makes sense for a lot of these people to come in. I mean, and the producer's job's a little bit more difficult now, because he used to just sit there and fool around behind the board, make sure everything's going, check the phone calls. But now they're having them switch the camera angles, bringing in visuals and
lights, graphics, all that stuff.
Yeah.
And actually, speaking of, Deborah Lee's letting me know that we can't switch camera angles for some reason. So we're kind of locked on this one, I think, for the duration of the show. So apologies for that if camera angle's getting a little static. So yeah, one of the things that just happens when you're live, man.
I don't have to be.
Okay, so a few people questioning. So I've seen some people wondering, are we using Rendezvous right now? And you see, Jeff can switch his angles. That works great. I like that. No, at the moment we're using our talk show box and we're bringing in Jeff through Zoom, because last time we used Skype with Jeff, for some reason there was something going on with the audio. You couldn't use your good microphone. We figured we'd bypass that and make it easy on ourselves and just let you go direct into Zoom. And turns out that ended up not being the easier option for us, because that was our back end was really all optimized for Skype and our talk show box. So as far as Rendezvous, though, actually, I wanted to do a quick experiment with you here. I actually would love to see if I can invite you to a Rendezvous call. So and this would work a little better if folks could actually, I think because we can't switch to my desktop, maybe this is going to be a fail here. But basically, I'm pulling up. Maybe you can, kind of point the camera at your screen or something like that. But I'm going to just send you a link here. I'm going to open a Wirecast document. I'm going to add you as a Rendezvous. I'm going to start a Rendezvous session. And if you haven't seen how to do that or haven't tried that yet, it's really easy. You just go to your sources, your master layers. You click add, start Rendezvous session. I'm going to copy that link. I'm going to send it over to you on Facebook Instant Messenger.
All right.
So here we go. Let's see if we can get that over. All right. And then all you need to do, so that's just boom, pop up right there. All you need to do is to open that link on whatever computer or device you want to try. Now, if you try this on a smartphone or an Android phone or a Samsung phone, you may have different browsers that you may get different results. But with with Chrome or Firefox, they have WebRTC built right in. Shouldn't be an issue.
All right.
So let's try that.
When you get it, let me make sure, because if you look at the bottom, I mean, we can't really show people right now, but you have the ability in the far left-hand corner to click and pick the camera you want. And it looks like it's going to pick up a HD Pro webcam for me.
Okay.
And
Boom. I just got my notification, and boom, there you are. And you should be able to see me and my green screen from my normal camera, and I'm not sure if I hooked up an audio microphone to this guy. How's it looking on your end?
yeah, it looks great.
Yeah. I got a great angle of your studio here. I love it.
Yeah, so it's a wire mess right now because of the show I produced on. But yeah, so I could bring this. I don't know. You can't switch that camera at all?
No, I can't. Unfortunately, it looks like we're out of ability to do that.
Okay.
So I think Deborah Lee's system just locked up on her. But it's okay. We're in theory, it was something cool I wanted to show folks. But basically, this is what I love about Rendezvous, because you're in here, you're 16:9, which is, by the way, should be fixed for everybody out there. There were some issues where the Rendezvous web browser would just grab the earliest available resolution, and usually that was a 4:3 resolution. But on the Rendezvous servers, I think they rolled it out so that now it'll grab, it should grab 720 at 16:9 if that's available. So it's looking good to me.
Yeah, I mean, it worked really well when we did.
And then Deborah Lee, sorry. Hey, Jeff, can you talk again? I think we lost your audio roll us.
Yeah, I'm here.
There you are. Cool. All right. So, sorry, I interrupted because your audio dropped out on it, and I kind of yelled in the microphone. I apologize.
No, it's all good. No, I just said it worked. It worked great for the Wired show I did last week. There was no flaws with it. Worked really, really well.
Cool. Tell me about that show a little bit. What are so you're working with StreamSpot, which is a CDN or a streaming provider, streaming online video platform and streaming service provider. What's the goal there? Again, bring on guests talking about industry related topics, or do you have a focus more narrow?
It's gonna be more geared to. I mean, it's almost like what I used to do at NAB Live, where I'm going to be talking to like professionals like yourself. Not necessarily. I don't know if we're going to dive into gear as much.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's going to be more of conversations of where technology is going to go. More, people that are in the industry, the CEOs, the VPs, and the shifting of the industry. Kind of I don't, a lot of, I think tech heads will enjoy it. But or people that just want to know what's going on in the news as far as that stuff goes. But I mean, I can't really say that. I'm showing up. They send me what I'm doing, and I go and I do it. But I mean, I have a lot of. I haven't done a show like about live streaming since because I used to co-host with Stephen Haywood with Broadcast Now for a while.
Right.
Back 2013 or 12. I can't remember when it was. And I've always wanted to do a show. I just this at the time, and they approached me and they said, "Hey, you want to do this?" And I said, "Absolutely." Just something I'd love to do, and I can do it in my sleep because I sleep, eat, breathe, all this stuff.
It's true. It's true. You're doing it all the time. So is that when is that show happening? Is it once a week, once a month?
Right now it's bi-weekly.
Bi-weekly.
And we're going to try to grow an audience and get the audience going. But it's a slow build with any show. I mean, especially now, you can't turn it on and go. You have to immediately build an audience for the show. Because I mean, my whole feed's live streams. So you have to do your time and be patient and see where it goes.
Yeah, tell me about that. So with this with Facebook Live coming into the picture, and actually I want to talk a little bit about news. Like you just found out that Vimeo Live's getting in the game with acquiring Livestream. So just a lot of the platforms out there are kind of realizing, from YouTube on down, they realize they really need this live component.
Right.
So that has made it just obviously more accessible to everybody, which is great because it makes it easier for everyone to just share their story, right? Talk about what's important to them, and find an audience. But that also means that there's more people out there doing that, and it's harder to find an audience, right? Because there's only so many eyeballs to go around.
Yeah, and that's and I guess I can be real here. I think there's always a positive because anybody has the ability to do it, but I think some people just shouldn't. What I mean by that is it clutters the space, and just to sit up there. So people's eyes get accustomed to like scrolling through Facebook. You go, oh, it's one of those again, or it's one of those again. And so when you do that, I mean, sometimes you find something that's, you find something and go, oh wow, that really stood out. I mean, I like a lot of the stuff I did with Be Live on the birthday bash. There was some people that just, they got a webcam, but they had some solid information, and it's sad that you get judged a certain way with this now. And that's why we're talking about, with Wirecast now, you can stand out and kind of brand yourself a certain way to stand out from the rest of the pack. But I mean, there's so many. I mean, some people have the gift of gab, and some people have the gift to educate. Some people are public speakers, but it's just like, you have to have it to
Right.
to attention. And if you don't, it's just kind of like you go, wow, all right, I can't watch this anymore.
You're cluttering the space. Get off the screen. Get out of my Facebook feed.
Right.
Right. Yeah. No, it's harsh. I think that's a good point. Is that if you're gonna do it, it may not be for everybody, right? But if you are doing it, do your best job and make the best content. Make people want to watch, right? So is that your number one tip for growing an audience?
Well, so sometimes it's not for me.
Yeah.
Sometimes I don't feel like doing it. I mean, and that's a crazy thing. It's like it's when you label yourself professional, you put your hat on and you just do it. And because I mean, sometimes I just don't. I'm so tired.
Right.
And you have to put on especially for like, the Be Live show I was doing. They, my title there is the Chief Happiness Officer. So even when I wasn't happy, I was like depressed, I had to go, I had to play a character, and I had to stay within those realms. And,
right.
You have to do it.
That's the brutal grind, right? You got a show every week or every, month. I can't even imagine people who do it daily. Like that just blows my mind. Like, cause that's hard, man. Like even a weekly show, once in a while you'll get to a point where you're just like, I don't feel like doing a show today. Like I'm tired. Like I didn't sleep, or whatever it is that's going on. But that's like, for whatever reason, you're not into it. But when that camera comes on, when those lights go on, it's showbiz time. You have to bring up the energy because that's what your job is, right? That's what the audience is showing up for. And they don't, I mean, obviously they care, but like, if you're going to do a show, do the show, right? Do it right. Do it the way the show's supposed to go. And if you're not, then maybe find a different business, right? Or do something else or cancel with enough notice, right? Run a rerun.
Yeah, I think I've been guilty of that. I mean, with the Jeff Adams show, I mean, I haven't, I unplugged for certain things, and I haven't done it for like a month, and so I need to ramp that back up and get back on the horse. But it's also too, it's like a head game too, because it's like I come from the entertainment industry, so everything's based on ratings, and a lot of with live streaming now, everybody looks at the views. And you can go look at the analytics of how long people are actually watching, and sometimes it's like head games. When you have a knockout broadcast where you have like 65,000 people watch on one Facebook, and you go backwards, and you might be sitting there, and you might have 10, 15 people sitting in the room. And you go, and it's not to devalue the 10, 15 people sitting in the room, but it's just like, okay, it reminds me like when I was a musician, and you'd go play a phenomenal show. I would open up for Rick Springfield, and you have these House of Blues, and I would get booked over at some club, and there'd be 10 people standing there. I'm like, because you have all this like energy to release, and it's like, for me, it's very hard to disassociate that because I'm an entertainer. So, and I feed off of energy.
Right.
If I don't have energy and there's nothing going on, I have nothing to give,
It's hard. Right. You're mirroring, you got your energy matches what the venue or the audience or the event is sort of sending to you. That's tough. That's
right.
Tough to bring it. Now, I think isn't the old adage or whatever in the music business or whatever, you're always playing to the back seats. You're always pretending you're playing to a crowded house, no matter if it's 5 people or 1,000, 5,000 people, you want to, bring down the house, right?
Right.
But that's not always easy when, there's just a bunch of empty seats.
It's hard. And then that separates you from the rest of the pack. Are you going to be a professional and show up and do what you got to do? Mm-hmm. Or are you going to, go in the green room and, complain? It's like, I'm not going out. I'm not doing this,
Right.
And, but it is. I mean, and I think a lot of people are, I think a lot of people are getting into this for the wrong reasons. I think they go, I'm going to be famous. I'm going to be famous in here because you see radio done told me I can't do it, and so I'm gonna go ahead and do this thing, and I'm gonna be famous. And they get on there, and it's a disaster. And they realize, like, wow, this, you really have to be, on your game. Like right now, I feel naked. You know why I feel naked? I got
Why?
my
Why do you
microphone.
feel naked?
Well, I'm literally naked underneath the desk. No, hey now. But no, I do, because I do so much,
Mhm.
and and if I'm not doing it, I feel very strange, and it's very like refreshing. I can just like talk in front of the camera, and not worry about anything, but I'm normally
Right.
like switching stuff or flipping stuff around and like producing at the same time when I'm doing something. So this is like awkward for me because I'm always so used to doing
Yeah,
so much stuff
when
at
you're
the
on
same.
camera, you're usually in the other spot. You're running the show. You have to so you can kind of sit back, relax a little, but it must be a little different. It must be a little awkward in some ways.
Yeah, it doesn't feel right for me, and that's why I'm kind of like, I don't know how to act, I mean, just
Man,
you
it's
know
just be real.
one of those things.
You're doing fine. Like
But
this
I'm gonna
is
quit.
this is why I like having you on, because we can just have a conversation, and you obviously know both sides. You know behind the cameras, in front of the cameras.
I'm on TV, Mom.
So how many cameras do you have set up there?
I have four.
Four.
Initially. I mean, I condensed down a lot. I mean, like this camera right here, I probably haven't adjusted right. I mean, I had to adjust things for the new show, so my lighting's a little bit off. I'm trying to adjust a little bit better.
Mhm.
But I have a Ursa Mini.
That's
driving.
actually what we're shooting on here. This is an Ursa Mini.
Yeah. So, and I enjoy it, but you know what? I got to tell you, I do enjoy the Ursa Mini, and I got it because I thought I was going to do a lot of mobile stuff with it, and I really haven't. And
Right.
I really prefer, and I wish I could go backwards and should have got another, the Blackmagic broadcast camera.
Mhm.
The quality on that with the same lenses that I'm using on here I think for what we do, it's a whole lot better.
Mm.
Because you have to do a lot of color correcting to get this camera, because I mean immediately the Ursa has a grainy feel to it. You
Mhm.
have to adjust the coloring.
Oh yeah, like we're noticing, like even the two. So I have an Ursa Mini here. We have set up a second camera, which you can't see and we can't cut into right now, but it's the Blackmagic Cinema 4K camera,
Yeah.
and just the two cameras have completely different color hues. Like we spent a couple hours just trying to match them yesterday, and ultimately in Wirecast we used the color correction tools, but there was no way in camera to get the two cameras to match.
Well, I mean, I have a TriCaster too. So a lot what I do is they immediately, you can click a button, you can automatically
Color match.
Yeah, color match immediately, and then I run it into Wirecast from there.
Mhm.
But yeah, but within the NDI too, I mean, I can hook up other cameras as well when I need to. But I mean, I've got vMix running on one computer, Wirecast. I've got Wirecast on one computer. I've got the TriCaster over to the left, and so I can do a lot of different things with my setup depending about what I'm doing. I mean, within the studio, when I have people in there, it's I really don't need more than 4 cameras in here.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
There's nowhere else to put them.
No, exactly. And then you're running more cables, and then you got to deal with the whole ingest part of it, and it gets a little crazy. I think 4 is a really solid number. Like actually, if I had to do it, I'd probably do a 3 camera up front, so we can easily do close up, 2 shot or wide shot, and then I kind of want that 4th camera to be sort of a perspective or studio camera. So I think I'll probably hang one above and like do a top down, or maybe we'll do a shot of the control room or something like that. So I think ultimately we'll end up between 4 and 6 cameras. Like I think that's gonna be our sweet spot.
And it's cool too. I mean, because if I ever need to, it's like you have the iOS, or you can use your mobile or your iPad for an NDI hook up network through the house, and you can walk through. We've done that a couple times. We did a show where Rosie's son came in, and he was using an iPad, and he was just roaming through the house because we had people sitting in the room over here, and then they would come in the studio. So it gave it a different viewpoint.
That's cool.
But I mean, I love NDI, and I'm glad that you guys jumped on that train. With that, because I mean, it really makes, when you're doing like studios like this, it makes the workflow because you can use, pretty much anything you want to use within the NDI,
Yeah, exactly. And and we've actually, I think New Tech just released NDI version 3, so the SDK number 3, which includes now the high efficiency, which is amazing. So high efficiency now gets that bandwidth down to more like the 10 megabits per second range, but you still get
Right.
1080, and so that's really doable now. For the first time, you can do Wi-Fi NDI much better, and the latency's still extremely good,
Right.
extremely fast. So we'll be probably announcing that in the next few months, or as we roll that in fact. So you should start to see some of that coming in the next updates for Wirecast. So all right, Jeff, I want to, we're kind of limited from what we can do as far as a demo. I kind of wanted to jump in and show features and stuff like that. So we won't be able to do that, unfortunately. Sorry, guys. We'll do that again, I promise. And I'll actually be, with our new show, we'll be able to do a lot more. We're bringing back learning sessions, but in a little bit of a different way now. And then... but what I did want before we sign off for today is just to talk real quick. You mentioned Rendezvous. You mentioned Facebook Live comments. What else in 8 has kind of struck you as something that's been useful to you, or cool, or different, or just like, oh, that's neat, that you noticed?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, and I haven't really jumped into it, but the audio settings. And being able to adjust. And also, I think too, it's really cool. I mean, I wish I could flip it around, and I can't because I'm streaming
That's cool.
Facebook Live to the monitor. But the ability to take 4 frames, 8 frames if you have different monitors. So if I'm producing something, I'm able to just look and pick the pictures I want. It's like right in front of me. So
the multi-viewer,
camera 2,
right.
rendezvous call, and I can just see everything in front of my eyes with a monitor. I love that feature big time. I mean, that was really cool. I was like, oh yes, finally I can pick my shots and take one monitor and make it into
multiple previews. And then I was actually squarely aimed at a lot of professional users that wanted that, right? Because you have this mixer switcher and you're like, this is great, I've got the master layers, but I really need a second monitor where I can really just kind of see everything that has nothing to do with the switching necessarily.
Right. Yeah, but I really love that feature big time, because I have a 60-inch. Like right now I'm streaming your feed from your Facebook from my phone to the 60-inch monitor, and so I would normally I'm doing I'm using Wirecast to have all my previews. I can look right up if I'm not on camera, I'm producing, I'm using that 60-inch right in front of me.
Got it.
And I can see everything, and it's fantastic. So that's one thing I really, really love about Wirecast as well.
Cool. Yeah, so multi-viewer, very cool, particularly when you have a 60-inch screen TV. That's amazing for it. And then the audio you mentioned was another good one, which I think is underrated by a lot of people, but you don't realize, like, once you can bring in 16 channels of audio on any source, then you've got like as much audio capabilities as you need. Any mixer now becomes all that you need, and to get every channel or source of audio that you want and dial it in. And then I think I just did a video. You guys could find it if you want on Vimeo, but it just discussed some of the benefits that you can do with that, like oh, I'm sorry. Actually, I'm working on that video now. It will be up on Vimeo as soon as I'm done, probably by tomorrow. But this is basically opens up the doors that now Wirecast in Pro, at least, you can output different tracks of audio, different mixes to different destinations. So that's never been possible in Wirecast before. You had to do multiple documents, or projects open at the same time. Now in one project, you just kind of create track 1, track 2, track 3, and it's got microphones 3 and 4 and 5, whatever it is you're throwing in there. You can do like a clean recording with no music. So if you want to like edit in music later that doesn't get flagged on certain platforms or copyright music, you can take that out of your mix and put it to a certain destination and do that all. And then just assign, as you're now selecting your output and saying, hey, I want to stream to Facebook, I want 720. And then Wirecast asks you, what track of audio do you want to send to this Facebook destination? Do you want to send track 1, track 2? So you just assign it. And then it's pretty sweet.
Yeah, I mean, and it's really simplicity. I mean, I don't want to bash competitors or whatever, but like vMix, for me, their whole audio settings are just confusing as heck. And when they released vMix Call, they said, oh, you can have up to 12 calls, but ideally you could only have 2 because the audio settings, you had A and B. And then if you had like up to 3 more calls, they would hear each other, and they would hear themselves, and it was a big cluster audio mess. And you go back in the audio settings are just not simple to use. And that's why I've always, swang with Wirecast. I mean, vMix got some cool things, but Wirecast, I mean, just really stands out. It's very simple to use, and I can really teach somebody within, they're not going to figure everything out. If they're looking to do a RMTP feed to Facebook and they want to do lower thirds, I can teach them within a day.
Right.
Save their settings and they're good to go. And that's just play around with it, keep your settings, and then you want to kind of build, but it's very simple to use. That's why I really refer clients that I always push them to Wirecast first. Like, hey, try Wirecast out. This is you want to get up to a pro level, get Wirecast, download it, and toy around with it. And a lot of people see I push. That's why I probably should be a reseller of Wirecast at this point. I pushed on my call. I pushed Wirecast 3 times today.
Oh, nice.
On the 3 different calls that I had.
Yeah, well, reselling, you're always welcome to sign up. I know they always want more. So I think it's one of those situations where they're like, no, we don't, we never have too many.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever heard our sales team say that. So I'll let you know if they close the door, but I don't think so. So I think you brought up a good point, though, which is that Wirecast, at least in my opinion, and I'm not an expert in the other products. I just don't spend a lot of time working with any of that because my job's really just to know Wirecast. So I can't speak to that, but I can say that from our sort of design philosophy, if you will, it's to keep it as simple as possible, but then provide the depth and the complexity underneath if you want to go there. So it may seem simple, and it should be simple up front on top. If you're just doing a few things, it shouldn't take you long. We want that to always be one of the key design philosophies behind Wirecast, but we don't ever want you to think like, but that means it's just a simple program. It's far from it. And that's why I think we've had a full-time audio engineer on this for months, just routing audio in Wirecast, just working on audio. So, and that's going to continue, especially as we bring in, start managing more Rendezvous calls, NDI calls, all these new tracks. I think you'll only continue to see, the audio capabilities try to keep pace. Like one thing we learned about Rendezvous, this is a great example. One reason we're not quite ready to use it in, say, a operator situation. I'm in front of the camera here. We've got the control room over there. But Rendezvous was meant to be sort of a solo operator type of audio routing. But you realize pretty quickly that sometimes if you're in a setup like this, I need to get the return mixes from audio from Rendezvous, but then they also need the broadcast mix to go to the control room to Wirecast. So Wirecast needs to be able to split Rendezvous feeds into different monitor feeds and start doing mix minus within itself. And that's not something that we added yet, but now we're like really aware of that. Like, oh yeah, there's different, there's a lot of demand that you need when you run an audio signal, and you don't just need one, you need it routed or split 2 or 3 times depending on where and who's listening.
Yeah, and from my standpoint, I mean, I have a whole SIP voice call system within the studio, and I'm running an Arrakis radio board or an Arrakis 8 board that has one mix and minus built into the board. So immediately, if I'm producing a show and there are 3 people, on Rendezvous, and I'm not on camera, they've got to hear the phone calls.
Right.
For me, the ability so that they're not getting looped because the phone calls go through the audio hub here through the processor and come back to the TriCaster, so they're here double their voice. So for me to click off them within Wirecast and Rendezvous is a game changer for me. I mean, it was like trying to figure that stuff out with doing these like generic mix and minuses with these other boards and stuff and plugging them into it's worked out really well for me. That's
pretty cool. I'd love to see you do like a quick video on that. I'm sure other Rendezvous users would as well, because that's pretty sweet that you're doing. And that's a use case that we wouldn't necessarily have known or thought about because we're not running a pro studio like you with the demands that you need to put on it, and the challenges that of exactly what you mentioned, running through a call system and having to run through multiple boards and spit out all those mixes is tricky. It's really tricky stuff. So that's pretty cool. Jeff, we've passed almost another hour together here, and I want to be kind of close out the show here and be respectful of your time. Is there anything else? Where can people get more information on what you're doing? Next shows coming up. What's the best place to reach out and find you?
They can find me on Facebook at TJAS New Media or
TJAS
New Media. Yeah.
All right.
Just you think of the Jeff Adams Show abbreviated, TJAS. Right. Jeff Adams Show abbreviated, and then on Twitter, the Jeff Adams, and and then my website, the JeffAdamsShow.tv, as well. So
cool.
There you go.
All right. Well, thanks for coming on today and shooting the breeze about Wirecast 8 and what's going on with you over there. It's pretty cool to see. Things are moving quickly. And yeah, a year has gone by with Be Live with you. I've really been impressed with what you've been doing there. And I know you just mentioned it's not always easy to bring the energy, but you always do, man.
Always do. But I like these shows. I can just be laid back and talk tech. And because I really like being laid back and talking tech. So thanks for having me on the show.
Pleasure to have you. We'll have you on again. And I don't know how the sign out's going to be because, again, we're kind of limited on camera angles. So you can just disconnect and I'll just close out the show.
All right.
All right, buddy. See you later.
Bye.
All right, guys. So that was Jeff Adams. And I just want to say thanks so much to him for coming on the show as he kind of signs off there. And we sort of wrap things up here. But this was a fun show. I apologize for the technical difficulties. And, I see here in some of the comments that you guys were definitely having some conversations here. So I appreciate that. And I want to see if I have a few moments before we start. I see someone had a question about replay. That probably is not something we'd have time to do while running the show. Dave, thanks for tuning in. He says, great show. Thanks for watching. Hewitt, I hope I said your name correctly. Jeff is great. You're right. We had a great time with him. And Kevin says Paul Feinbaum has the Call-In Sports Show. Began in Birmingham. Now he's at ESPN. I think we're actually going to try something with Wirecast Rendezvous and maybe try a call-in show and just do a whole show where we have you guys, connect on Rendezvous. I think that's going to be a lot of fun. I'll just put the link out there and maybe we can bring people in. And I think that's one of the neat things you can do with sort of just a chat out the link and people join. It's easy. You can manage all the callers and audio levels as they come in. Matthew, any timeline for Rendezvous audio controls? I don't have a timeline for you, Matthew. I know right now, but it's on the map and they're definitely working to continue to improve it. There's a lot of things that they're going to be bringing out soon. So, and I see I'm getting this weird mirroring effect because we're bringing in our own video on the Skype call or on the Zoom call. I think that should just give me a cue that I should probably just sign off. All right, guys, I'm going to call it. I'll see you back here next week, Thursday, 2:30 p.m. Pacific time, and we're going to be interviewing Eric Pratt and talking all about virtual setworks. And hopefully we should have our tech crew back then, and any of these issues going on behind the scene will be ironed out. All right, guys, we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. Don't forget, you can gear up and save. If you're curious about that, head over to the Telestream website, and you can get more information there or reach out to our sales or support teams. They'd be happy to help you. And thank you so much for watching. This has been another episode of Wirecast Live.